Okay, yeah, I'm presenting a talk on internal structural cover and ledges facilitate the use of large underpasses by multiple wildlife species and groups. And this is by myself, Jeff Tracy, Philip Gold, and Robert Fisher, all from the Western Ecological Research Center. So our study area is San Diego County within open coastal sage scrub xeric habitat. So a number of large wildlife underpasses have been built in uplands and coastal sage scrub habitat to mitigate road barrier effects in San Diego County. These are mainly built with consideration of large mammals, assuming use by small and medium-sized mammals and animals. And there's little data to show if these are actually effective. So we wanted to find out, well, how permeable are these underpasses to animal species in the coastal sage scrub community? How does permeability vary by species or species group? And does adding internal structural cover increase the permeability to smaller species? So we used a before and after control impact design with 8 large underpasses in San Diego County, and we monitored them for spring and summer of 1 year. And then we added cover treatments during the winter and monitored them again for a second year. And cover treatments were added to 4 of the 8 underpasses. So the 8 underpasses were all relatively large, ranging from 4.5 to 9 meters in width and 34 to 87 meters long. And 4 of these underpasses also had ledges on each side. We were prohibited from using logs and down wood for cover and things like that. So our cover treatments were simply a pile of 4 cinder blocks with 2 different size PVC pipes underneath. And they were placed every 5 meters across the treated passages on one side only. And the purpose of this design was to potentially affect or facilitate movement of species with both open and more closed microhabitat preferences. Kind of serve as stepping stones. The ledges on the underpasses that did have ledges were approximately 4 feet high and 5 to 6 inches wide. And they weren't built for animal movement, so they didn't have ramps leading up to them. So any animals that use these ledges must climb the walls in order to get to the ledge. For each underpass, we set 2 wildlife cameras in the interior. They were both 5 meters inside the underpass, facing to the interior of the underpass on each side. And we also had 1 camera at the exterior of one end of the passage opening. And if there was a ledge, we placed 1 camera on the ledge. Here are some photos of our cameras. So you can see that they're set low to the ground, and they were also set to very high sensitivity with a short 3 to 5 foot focal length so that we could actually document small animals to the best of our ability. And although the focal length was short, we were also able to easily identify large animals across the length of the passage, even with the cameras at the low level. Each of the cameras was set for motion detection, rapid fire 3 images upon motion and heat, with an additional automatic time-lapse photo every 5 minutes. We generated over 3 million images. And early in the study, we classified 200,000 of these images, and this funding allowed us to classify and analyze all of the remaining images. We classified species into 12 groups. The first was lizards, and they were mainly Scaloporus or fence lizards, also granite spiny lizards, and some whiptails. The snake group was primarily rattlesnakes, king snakes, and gopher snakes, with a few garter snakes. Also, the mice group was predominantly Peromyscus, which is the deer mouse genus. We have our wood rat, our coastal sage scrub wood rat, and also California ground squirrels, raccoons, and rabbits, skunks, and there you can see both spotted and striped skunks, bobcats, gray fox, coyote, mule deer, and last but not least, our bird representative, the roadrunner. We weren't anticipating getting a lot of images of roadrunners, but we did, so we included them in our analysis. Okay, so as many of you know, Jeff Tracy with our supercomputer center spent a lot of time on machine learning algorithm to classify the remaining photos. And the development was extensive, and initial training and testing indicated very high sensitivity and specificity, approximately 98% for both. However, when applied to the remaining unclassified images, almost half of the photos were predicted to be animals, but in actuality, almost 98% were non-images, or images with no animals in them. And the hypothesis was, Jeff's hypothesis was that the algorithm had also learned the backgrounds of where species were most likely to occur. And just to talk about non-images for a moment, so with camera traps, non-images are very common in time-lapse photos. And also because the cameras were set so sensitive, cameras were easily triggered from air movements and vegetation movements, particularly the exterior cameras. So we immediately had a staff-wide effort to classify all the images using human biologists. And then after we did the classification and looking at the results of the machine learning algorithm, we saw that when images with those non-images where no animals were in them were removed, 75% of the photos were correctly classified by the algorithm, and accuracy within our species grouped ranged from 33 to 94%. So plans are for further development of this. So all of the human classified images were analyzed for relative animal activity in the interior versus exterior versus ledges using closed population and mixture models. And then for before-after control impact, or the effect of the internal cover treatments, this was analyzed using open population and mixture models. So both incorporate imperfect probability of detection, and the response variable which is animal activity, was standardized to number of use events per week for each animal group. And there was a 10-minute window for each use event, meaning that if a species was detected in numerous photos within a 10-minute window, it counted as a single use event. Okay, now to the results. So this figure shows the relative activity of animal groups prior to treatment in the interior versus exterior of the underpass. And this is a measure of relative permeability, so that animals with greater activity in the exterior, which is represented in green, are assumed to be avoiding the underpass, while animals with greater activity in the underpass, represented as the gray bars, are assumed to be preferentially using the underpasses. And the ledge use is shown in orange. So wood rats, rabbits, and roadrunners all showed evidence of avoidance, particularly rabbits that were 4 times less likely to be found in the underpass than exterior. Snakes, squirrels, and fox also showed substantial but an insignificant to the 95% confidence level lower activity in the underpass versus the exterior. So mice and bobcats showed evidence of preferential use. Mice were 4 times more active in the underpass, while bobcats were 5 times more active in the underpass. And other species were not significantly different, showing neither avoidance or preference. And for the ledges, mice, wood rats, and lizards, that's in the orange bar, were all documented on ledges, with mice actually 10 times more numerous on ledges than the underpass floor. So after adding these internal structures, 5 species groups showed significant 50 to 200% increases in underpass use. And that was mice, rats, rabbits, fox, and coyote, while 2 groups showed substantial but not significant increases of 75 to 100%, and those were snakes and roadrunners. 2 species groups showed significant 50 to 60% decreases in underpass use, and those were skunks and bobcats, while 4 groups showed no significant or substantial differences: lizards, squirrels, raccoons, and deer. So our current hypothesis is that the responses of species groups were not only related to the structures offering cover from predators, but also potentially a trophic cascade. As you can see from these photos, mice in the underpass and on the ledges appeared to be hunting beetles on the underpass floor. The mice on the ledges were often observed looking and jumping over the edge of the ledge, and mice on the floor were often observed appearing to be preying on beetles. So the ledges also likely offered them protection from predators and a vantage point to hunt prey. Similarly, small mammals often moved within the structure cover, as well as their predators. A few pictures of coyote and bobcats with rabbits, and we have some also with squirrels and other species. So here's a trophic web of animal groups in our study, with the green representing increases in activity from structural cover, and anything highlighted in red signifying decreases. The orange lines represent direct predator-prey relationships. And maybe I'll let you just take a look at that for a moment. Coyote is our top carnivore. We do have mountain lions, but we documented no mountain lions in this study, and they're quite rare. So we believe that this internal structural cover can enhance the habitat value by shielding moisture, which in turn can support like diverse microbial communities that are often the base of food chains. Internal cover can also offer protection for invertebrates and many small animal species. Positive responses of small animals and their predators in our study, mice, rats, rabbits, snakes, roadrunners, fox, and coyote, may provide supportive evidence for bottom-up effects. Since we did not survey for invertebrate abundance, we cannot confirm that this part of the food chain was in fact increased from the added cover. Also, increased use by large predators such as coyote may have resulted in top-down effects from predation and competition pressure, such as decreased use of underpasses by medium-sized prey species, skunks, and intraguild competitors such as bobcats. However, the vast majority of animal groups showed positive responses to this internal cover. So today, the structures and cover are actually still in the underpasses used in this study. And it would be really interesting and potentially valuable to document longer-term responses to the treatment after 10 years of acclimation. Surveys specific to large invertebrates in the open areas and under the cover structures could help address hypotheses regarding responses of invertebrates and animals that prey upon these species. Other possibilities include analyzing relationships between human use and wildlife use of underpasses. We had a lot that were also used by humans, sampling a wider array of underpass types or vegetation communities, and of course, continued development of the machine learning to classify images, which is planned by the Computer Learning Center within the USGS. And we just want to thank you so much for supporting this work, and we hope you find it valuable. Thank you.